Hello and welcome to part 2 of this video series where I'm going to be walking you through my process of building a song from complete scratch. So it's just going to be like the basic outline of a song. So this example is taken from a side gig of mine where I write personalized custom songs for people, and they make for, wedding gifts, anniversary gifts, birthday gifts, that sort of thing. But basically it's a custom song that tells their personal story, and it follows a specific set of rules. So I'm gonna walk through those in a little bit as well. And this particular song is for a guy who wanted to surprise his girlfriend on Valentine's Day. So it is a romantic ballad, it is very stripped down. It's just piano and vocal. Not a whole lot of stuff going on arrangement-wise. So in part 1, I go over how I like to approach writing a chorus, just starting from the ground up. So if you haven't seen that yet, be sure to go back and check that out because I think it'll provide some extra context into what I'm doing here. So in today's video, I'm gonna share my personal approach with writing the verse, and I'm gonna cover a few different topics. So one, the lyrical inspiration that went into the vocal melody that I use, and two, building a chord progression around that vocal melody. I actually had the vocal melody first, which is kind of maybe counterintuitive to some people. So I wanted to show you how I go about figuring that out. And then three, just working with balancing out the level of major chords versus minor chords to make sure that there's enough variety going on. And all the stuff that I put into making this song, I've actually condensed into a PDF of just a few steps to go from no idea to finished idea. And these are things that I have to go back to every time I work on one of these custom songs, just because every prompt that I receive is different, and it requires, me to not freeze up because I don't have time to. These songs I have to churn out within the span of 3 days based on the service. So I have to implement these little principles that I've figured out quickly. So if you're into that, you can download the free checklist in the link in the description. And I highly recommend it if you're going to be following me along for this whole thing, because it's really going to help. It serves as a companion for everything I'm going to be talking about throughout the series. Let's get into it. Okay, so first off, I want to talk about the melody idea that I had, that I built everything around from. So this was just an idea that I recorded quickly into my phone earlier that morning, but I want to show you, how I came up with that, and then how the song grew from that melody as a whole. So you have to go back to the way that this business model works, where I have to take the customer's, set of requirements, what they're looking for in the song, and I have to dissect their story and what they must have included in the song, and then I build things from there. So let's get into that real quick. So it's the lyrical inspiration. Here we go. So let's take a listen to this real quick.
The adventures of Boomer and Goob, going strong 2 seasons long. Or the adventures of Boomer and Goob, going strong 2 seasons long. The tale of how the Scorpio met her Aquarius.
Right, so right off the bat, you notice I did a couple of different variations of that first half of the verse. I always like to try different things with phrasing the melody a different way, using different notes, all that sort of stuff. And you know what? It never stays the same. Like, I have one idea in the beginning, and a lot of times it'll turn into something completely different right at the very end when I'm about to record things. But it's good to have these little voice recordings for obvious reasons, just to remember the kind of direction that you want to take it and whatnot. But let me show you now where this all came from. So the melody that I came up with was due to some lyrics that I wrote based on this prompt here, which, depending on how things go, sometimes I come up with the melody first, but oftentimes with these custom songs, I like to sit down and just read through the story and read through the 4 things that are needed in the song and see if I can come up with something really catchy and really hooky right off the bat. So the thing that caught my attention first, I like to start with the 4 things because I try to go for writing a chorus before anything, but in this instance, it wound up being a verse. So this part right here, our nicknames, right? Hers is Goob, mine is Boomer. So after, sitting down with, you know, this prompt and the information that I had about the song, where it was a romantic song, right? So it needed to be relatively slow, so under 100 beats per minute. So it was kind of, you know, that kind of tempo. So that gave me an idea of, you know, the pulse of the song, the feel of the song. And you know, immediately I had some chords in mind, but I hadn't really spent too much time on it. But I had an idea. So from here, for some reason, this just grabbed me, and I spent maybe like 10 minutes just trying to figure out an angle for this. And since they're nicknames and they sound kind of cartoonish, it started giving me ideas of, like, you know, television shows. So I thought of the idea of The Adventures of Boomer and Goob, right? And even saying that out loud, I really liked the rhythm of it, like The Adventures of Boomer and Goob. So that became, you know, the first half of that line. And then I wasn't sure exactly how to, you know, put the second half of that on. And then I went down here. This first line right here. Been together over 2 years. So I thought, all right, if I was thinking in the context of a television show, right? 2 years, 2 seasons. So what can rhyme? Like, how can I find a rhyme within that, right? So I thought, you know, they've been going strong, 2 seasons long. And, you know, that's kind of how it happens. This all just came as a result of just sitting down, having this prompt, and having these parameters in place. So just to repeat, the parameters that I had were a tempo based on the mood of the song, right? Normally, these romantic ballads, they can't go any faster than 100 beats per minute, right? So that's a great parameter for me to have. That's a good boundary to keep me in place with this. So from there, I know that being that it's a romantic song, yes, it's going to be happy, but there's also going to be a little bit of minor jammed in there as well. So that kind of gives me an idea of how I'm going to approach the melodies and the chord progressions without even knowing what to do yet. And then, of course, that's going to dictate the phrasing depending on how I shape the melody and the lyrics. All right, so let's get back into the session. And now I want to create the verses. So for the verses, what did I have for the verses? Keeping it in the same key. Let's see, what do I got? Okay, so I had to dig into my phone and export a voice note that I recorded this morning because I don't have any chords yet for this, but I had the melody, so I'm going to bring that in right now. So get you out of here and bring you in. And let's see what we got. So...
The Adventures of Boomer and Goob, going strong, 2 seasons long.
All right, so yeah, so it's probably gonna be the 1 chord. And the 5 chord, and then the 4 chord. So we got yeah, probably do the same thing here. So let's see. Let's hear how this sounds. Let's do slow classic. Yeah, I like that. Okay. So bring you in. Drag you here. And so we want 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. So
The adventures of Boomer and Goo, going strong, 2 seasons long.
Yeah, it doesn't really work, but it doesn't really matter. And then
long, or the
and so that we already got because that's a variation.
The tale of how the Scorpio met her Aquarius.
Yes, they like zodiac signs, so I had to include that in there. Don't judge.
The tale of how the Scorpio met her Aquarius.
So it'd probably do. All right, so D D D D D D D D D D D D.
Strong benches.
So D D D D D D D D D D D D. I guess the same thing works, yeah. So as you can see in this section, I've got everything laid out as far as, you know, the first half of the verse, but I didn't want it to just keep repeating the exact same chords throughout because it would just get really, really boring and repetitive after a while, just because it'd be just like happy, 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 happy. To me, that's just like, it's too sappy, so I wanted to include some minor chords in there just to kind of spice things up a little bit. Felt like I heard something different in my head though when I was listening to this. Let's hear that again.
The tale of how the Scorpio.
What if I just went, yeah, if I change that to a C minor? Let's see, where are we?
Adventures of Boomer and Goo.
Let's get rid of you for a second. And then yep, I like that. So basically I am in a constant state of how can I introduce enough variety without completely changing the song, right? Without changing its identity, without it making it sound like a completely different song in a separate section, right? So that's, you know, that's the tug of war when it comes to songwriting. It's all about balancing familiarity with surprise. And in this case, just dropping one minor chord in there was, you know, enough spice to make things really interesting. You know, it wasn't overtly happy all of a sudden. It's an important thing to check with anything that you're working on. Just like listen back and how long does it get before you get bored with something, and what can you do to tweak that, right? I don't know. Maybe this is just me, but this is what is always going on in the back of my head when I'm working on music. Anyway, let's get back to it. Okay. So get that going. Let's see. And then so I'll repeat this. In fact, I'll probably just do a repeat in here because that way I can play with how this part is actually played. So let's see if we can replace it with. Yep, that sounds good to me. Let's bring that in. And then, let's see. Let me think. What was it? Yeah, might just do the same thing as well. And then same thing. And then unmute you. Same thing. Let's see. I'm gonna poorly sing these lyrics to this. So, where was it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The adventures of Boomer and Goob, going strong 2 seasons long. The tale of how the Scorpio met her Aquarius, and then searching for a connection. Her and Boomer wrapped in the emotion. He always loves the way that she looks at him. Okay, cool. All right, so there's part 2. Now, if you've been following along since part 1, you know that I mentioned that it was going to be a 3-part series. But after looking back at everything, just because it was only an hour long, but it's still densely packed, and I want to make sure that these videos are digestible as much as possible, so I've chopped things up a little bit more. Part 3 is going to be the bridge, so stay tuned for that. And just to remind you, like, all the things that I did to get the results that you found in the video, I've put in the PDF. So if you're interested in being able to do this yourself, I highly suggest you grab that. It's free, it's in the link in the description, and you will get results, I promise. So let me know if you want to see more of this in the future. Drop me a comment and let me know. And of course, any other questions are welcome as well. Thanks for watching.